What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another match preview. This time, it's Manchester United versus Bournemouth at Old Trafford. Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Two teams certainly very much in form. Two of the form sides in the Premier League at the moment. And that's not really two names that would spring to mind as two form sides in the Premier League. Maybe not in terms of performances with Manchester United, but certainly based upon results. And Bournemouth, who I think some had kind of tipped maybe to go down this season, despite being kept up last season. Fantastic managerial display from Gary O'Neill. They decided to go in a different direction, hired Andoli Arola, and still somehow, after a really poor start to the season, they've started to turn it around as well. So it's a fascinating one. When it comes to Manchester United, of course, look, we're looking to build upon and improve off the 2-1 victory over Chelsea at Old Trafford in midweek. One of, if not the sort of best home performance in the Premier League, certainly this season. Had a decent performance against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup. But, you know, apart from that, you probably would say it's probably one of our better performances of the season, certainly at home. And United, look, we're in decent form. And I know that seems very strange to say that we're in good form because, of course, prior to the Chelsea game, we were a club in crisis. And that's really where Manchester United, I think, are this season, is that we go in every game. If we win, we just go on to the next one. If we lose, we're in crisis. The manager should go and everything's going terribly. The sky's falling and the roof's leaking at the same time. But if you look at the cold, hard facts of it at the moment, and sometimes, look, statistics can be manipulated to suit whatever kind of point you're trying to make. But in the last 5 games in the Premier League, Manchester United have won 4 out of 5. It's only that defeat against Newcastle that is the blemish on the record. Meanwhile, you look at Bournemouth, they also, in the last 5 games, have done pretty well. After really struggling at the beginning of the season, they're actually unbeaten in their last 4, only 1 defeat out of 5, and that was the 5th game ago, and they've picked up some impressive victories certainly as well. So, you know, we've still got big games coming up with United, and that must be stress too, isn't it? You're not going to be getting too carried away or anything like that. We've still got Liverpool away, Anfield. I think everyone's really everyone's really pointing to that, aren't they? Saying that that's the big away game that people are concerned about, and I still think we're probably going to lose that game. Even on Boxing Day, you got Aston Villa at home, a Villa who are currently 3rd in the Premier League, absolutely in tremendous form under Unai Emery. So knowing that those big games are coming up, it's important to beat who's in front of you and just try and build up some more momentum as well. And look, it's a home game at the end of the day. It's going to be full of noise, and it's going to be really, really important to keep up that momentum and, again, keep up a pretty decent record in the league at the moment. As far as team selection, I think it has been reported in the last couple of minutes, actually, at the time of me recording this video, that Amad Diallo is back in full training with the first team squad. I think it'll be too soon for him to come in. Maybe he'll make the bench or something like that. But in terms of the starting 11, I think that Erik ten Hag got it near enough spot on against Chelsea. And we know he's a man who loves consistency. We know he's a man that likes continuity. And that's certainly 2 things you couldn't associate with Manchester United in their starting 11s this season, could you? Consistency and continuity. We've had so many injuries, so many absences, and so many poor performances that he's not only been forced to rotate because of injuries, but he's been forced to chop and change because also things haven't been working. So I think that we'll probably see the same side, maybe bar 1 change against Chelsea from the Chelsea game against Bournemouth at the weekend. Certainly if that was me anyway, I think I'd be looking at Onana in goal once again. Right back, you'd stick with Diogo Dalot, did nothing wrong and had a really good partnership with Antony on the right against Chelsea. The centre-back positions is maybe where I think we could maybe see a change. He started with Lindelof and Maguire against Chelsea, but he did change that in the second half. He brought on Reguilon for Lindelof and moved Luke Shaw back into that left centre-back position, which he played against Newcastle. And, you know, we did say coming out of the Newcastle game, didn't we, that, you know, the real, shall we say, 1 or 2 people that could sort of hold their head up high coming out of the Newcastle game was Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw. So I'm not totally shocked that he decided not to, to switch things around for the game against Chelsea because he had to. But I think given not only how Shaw and Maguire played in the second half, but maybe more importantly how Sergio Reguilon played in the second half against Chelsea, he might just look at that and say, I tell you what, there was a really good synergy and a really good chemistry between Reguilon and Garnacho on the left-hand side. So if there's going to be a change, I think it would probably be that. Midfield, I think, would probably stay as is, which is Amrabat and McTominay. Kobbie Mainoo, unfortunate not to start the game. I mean, at home against a side in the bottom half that's 15th in the league, that might be a perfect game for a Kobbie Mainoo to start. You would think maybe they'll play on the counter-attack. They might have somewhat of a bit of a lower block where we maybe won't get the space that we would get against Chelsea, who just I don't really know what Chelsea were doing. So maybe it might be a game for a Kobbie Mainoo, but both of the midfielders, it's a very difficult decision to drop them. McTominay is our top goal scorer in the Premier League this season. So you keep him on because he's scoring goals. He doesn't really offer all that much in terms of touches, passes, and sort of finesse, but he arrives in the box at the right time and is scoring at the moment. And when they're doing that, you keep them in the team. Certainly, I think that's what Erik ten Hag's thought process is. And Sofian Amrabat had the best game I think we've probably seen of his in a Manchester United shirt. And if he continues up that form, then you really do have the serious discussion, don't you, about his future and if Manchester United are going to trigger that option to purchase him at the end of the season. But that's a way away right now. In terms of the game for Old Trafford at the weekend, I think it would be McTominay and Amrabat once again. Front three, I would really like him to see it keep it the same. That's what I want to see from Erik ten Hag. I was very big going into the game against Chelsea that under no circumstances could he start Marcus Rashford. And it isn't even an agenda, it's all Rashford's fault, because Manchester United's woes this season do not firmly just lay on Marcus Rashford's shoulders. There's far more to it than that. But I think Erik ten Hag's really tried everything with Marcus Rashford this season. That's why I said he had to be dropped for the Chelsea game. You've tried to play him through the bad form. You've played him on the left. You've played him on the right. You've played him up front. Nothing's working. Nothing's sticking. And it felt like the Newcastle game was a new low this season. It was quite similar to maybe some performances we had seen from Rashford under Ralph Rangnick, but certainly under Ten Hag this season, it felt like a new low. Body language, lethargy, attitude, desire, just none of it was there. All of those sort of intangibles were not there. So he just could not in good faith start. And I'm glad that Ten Hag didn't just sort of go, well, he's a senior player, he played well last season. You just have to at some point draw a line in the sand, go enough's enough, and go with the people that are playing well. Garnacho, the left-hand side, it's his. He won it from Rashford several weeks ago, and Rashford, Frank, was being shoehorned into the side on the right-hand side. Antony was unfortunate to miss the Newcastle game because he played well against Galatasaray. He had one of his better games in the United shirt against Chelsea. He should start. Rasmus Højlund, there still is the concern about him not getting that Premier League goal, but no disrespect to Bournemouth, and we'll get to them in just a second, but I mean, it feels like the perfect game to get that Premier League goal, that first one of the season, doesn't it? In that at home against a smaller side, you're going to have a lot of the ball. You would hope you're going to create a lot of chances. That would be the game to do it. So I think that will probably be the starting 11, one would think. And look, if we create half as many chances as we did against Chelsea, we just got to put them away. That's the thing. We just got to put them away and keep trying to build momentum and keep trying to get points on the board. I've mentioned a couple of times recently, football's a funny game, a very, very funny game, in that as bad as we have been at points this season, at the time of recording this video, we're 3 points behind City. At the time of recording this, Spurs and Newcastle haven't played yet. But we could find ourselves in a situation where we're ahead of Newcastle and we're level on points with Spurs. And I don't know what their fixtures are at the weekend, but we can only take care of ourselves. And if we win that game against Bournemouth, which I think we should, and I think we will, we put ourselves in a good position. And then we have some very difficult games coming up, and if we fail, when we fail, according to some, the sky will fall again and Manchester United get out to a terrible. But that's going to be United's season, I think. It's very up and down. It's very erratic. But when you do have the opportunity to build momentum, you've got to take those moments and seize it. So I think, hopefully, I'm looking for much of the same. But that's not to say that it's a gimme at all. And I really want to stress this, because Bournemouth recently, I mean, we're kind of playing them at the worst time possible. They're in the best form of the season. As I mentioned, they're unbeaten in their last 4, and they've got 3 wins and a draw in that period. And actually, some of them have come away from home as well. It's not as if, they had home games that they should be winning. No, they had an away victory at Sheffield United. I understand they're bottom of the league. But at home, they drew with Aston Villa, who a lot of people are worried about at the moment. That was 2-2. I mean, the last game in midweek against Crystal Palace, an away 2-0 win. That's a fantastic result for them. Absolutely fantastic result. And of course, really kicking off this run was a 2-0 victory against Newcastle just before the international break. So certainly, they've got momentum. They'll have belief. I think in particular, that game in midweek against Crystal Palace is the really key one for them, because that's a really difficult place to go. I know Palace aren't in the best form at the moment, but look, going away to Palace, winning 2-0, that's a brilliant result. Now, before this sort of stretch of decent games, they went to Man City and they held 6. They lost 6-1. So That's not to say that Manchester United shouldn't be, overly worried, but they can't be complacent either. And I think coming off the back of a positive performance in midweek, that's no excuse to drop that level of intensity. It shouldn't just be on the back of negative results that you're pressing so intensely and you're putting the shift in and you're tracking back and you're supporting your fullbacks and you're making sure you try and follow all the players around in midfield that you should be doing. You're doing your job, frankly. So I'm hoping to see the next level, the same level of intensity. And you've got to build momentum going into a massive week of the season. And I think that's also something we need to be cautious about too. Don't look too far ahead. We've got Bayern. Yes, we've got Liverpool. And a lot of people are looking at those games because realistically, probably going to be out the Champions League. And I think a lot of people aren't expecting us to get anything at Anfield. And I don't blame them. But that doesn't mean you can look ahead just being like, oh, how do we prepare for Bayern? How do we prepare for Liverpool? Got to beat Bournemouth first. Because if we don't get a result against Bournemouth and then we go on to have those games against Bayern and against Liverpool and they don't go our way, things can turn from some positives into some negatives very fast. Because again, football's a funny game. So we have to be very careful of being overconfident. But in terms of a prediction, and you can let me know your prediction, your predicted starting 11, all that fun stuff in the comment section below. In terms of a prediction, I'm going to go with a United. I mean, if you look at Bournemouth's recent games in terms of their goal scoring, they have been scoring goals fairly recently. 2-0 against Newcastle, 3-1 Sheffield United, 2-2 against Villa. Obviously got the 2 in the week against Palace. I'm going to probably go with the biggest question is, do United concede? Do I think Man United concede? I'm going to go with a 2-0 to Manchester United. I'm going to go with 2-0. You can't say that, certainly. You can't say that. We've just got to take our chances. And Bournemouth will get a chance as well. Defensive transition, counter-attack. It's entirely possible, certainly. So there you go, guys. Let me know your thoughts, your predictions, your match results as well in the comment section below. And fingers crossed we're on to another victory. I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.